In 1910, a man named Abraham Flexner, who had never practiced medicine in his life, published a report that shut down more than half the medical schools in America. The ones that taught herbal medicine, botanical remedies, and natural healing were targeted first. The report was funded by the Carnegie Foundation and backed by the Rockefeller fortune, the same Rockefeller who had just realized that pharmaceuticals could be synthesized from petroleum. Within 20 years, the grandmother who grew her own medicine in the backyard was reclassified as a danger to public health. Number 9 on this list was used by every farm wife in the country until the FDA made it illegal to say what it does. The clinical trials came back anyway. It works. Number 17 was classified as quackery by the American Medical Association in 1963. Today, it is prescribed in hospitals in Germany and covered by their national insurance. These 25 remedies were not abandoned because they failed. They were abandoned because you cannot patent a plant. Your great-grandmother raised healthy children using a medicine cabinet that grew in her garden and sat on her pantry shelf. Then an industry that made nothing from her knowledge decided it was worthless. Before we start, hit subscribe. What you are about to hear is not folk magic. It is American medical history that somebody paid a great deal of money to make you forget. Let us count down. Number 25, honey on an open wound. Your great-grandmother cleaned a cut with well water and packed it with raw honey from her own hives. She wrapped it in clean cloth and checked it the next morning. The wound was clean, the swelling was down, and the healing had already started. She did not know the word antibacterial. She knew what worked. A 2015 meta-analysis published in the Journal of the Royal Society of Medicine reviewed 26 clinical trials involving over 3,000 patients and confirmed that honey promotes wound healing and reduces infection rates in burns, surgical incisions, and chronic ulcers. Honey creates a low pH environment, produces hydrogen peroxide through an enzyme called glucose oxidase, and draws moisture from bacterial cells through osmotic pressure. Your grandmother did not need the study. She had a jar on the shelf and a child with a scraped knee. Manuka honey is now sold in medical supply catalogs at extraordinary markup. The honey from your great-grandmother's backyard hives would have done the same thing for free. Number 24, elderberry syrup for colds and flu. Every fall, your great-grandmother picked elderberries from the hedgerow and simmered them down into a thick, dark syrup. She gave a spoonful to every child in the house at the first sign of a sniffle. It worked. A randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled study found that elderberry extract reduced the duration of influenza symptoms from an average of 6 days to approximately 3. A 2016 study of 312 long-haul air travelers found that those taking elderberry capsules experienced significantly shorter and less severe colds than the control group. Black elderberry contains anthocyanins that directly inhibit viral attachment to host cells. Your great-grandmother did not have a virology degree. She had a hedgerow and a recipe her mother gave her. The Flexner Report and the pharmaceutical consolidation that followed ensured that no medical school in America would teach a doctor to recommend elderberry syrup. That does not change the fact that it works. Number 23, a mustard plaster for chest congestion. When pneumonia or bronchitis settled into the chest, your great-grandmother mixed dry mustard powder with flour and warm water into a paste, spread it on a cloth, and laid it across the patient's chest. The heat was intense. The sinuses opened within minutes. The coughing loosened within the hour. Mustard contains compounds called isothiocyanates that act as potent counter-irritants, increasing blood flow to the area and stimulating the body's own anti-inflammatory response. A study published in Respiratory Medicine confirmed that topical counter-irritants significantly reduce the subjective severity of upper respiratory symptoms. The technique requires care. Pure mustard against bare skin will blister. Your grandmother knew to cut it with flour and to place a layer of cloth between the plaster and the skin. She checked it every 10 minutes. She knew when to remove it. That judgment, the feel of the skin beneath her hand, the reading of the patient's breathing, was medical knowledge of a kind that no pharmaceutical product can replace. Before aspirin existed as a brand name, Your great-grandmother brewed tea from the inner bark of the white willow tree. She gave it for headaches, for fever, for joint pain, and for the aching that came with influenza. She called it willow bark tea. A pharmaceutical company called Bayer called the same active compound acetyl salicylic acid and sold it as aspirin beginning in 1899. The active ingredient in willow bark is salicin, which the body converts into salicylic acid, the same compound from which aspirin is derived. A clinical trial published in the journal Phytomedicine found that willow bark extract containing 240 milligrams of salicin per day was as effective as a standard dose of a conventional anti-inflammatory for treating lower back pain, with fewer gastrointestinal side effects. Your grandmother did not synthesize anything. She peeled bark from a tree that grew along the creek. The knowledge of which tree, which layer of bark, and how long to steep it was passed to her by her mother, and to her mother by hers. The tree still grows along the creek. The knowledge almost does not. Number 21. Raw garlic as a natural antibiotic. In 1858, Louis Pasteur documented what your great-grandmother already knew. Garlic kills bacteria. She crushed a clove, let it sit for 10 minutes to activate the compound, and either ate it raw with bread or applied it directly to an infected wound and wrapped it in cloth. She gave it to children with ear infections. She ate it herself at the first sign of a sore throat. Allicin, the compound released when garlic is crushed, has been shown in laboratory studies to be effective against a broad spectrum of bacteria, including strains resistant to conventional antibiotics. A study published in the Journal of Antimicrobial Chemotherapy found that a compound derived from garlic was effective against biofilm-forming bacteria that cause chronic infections. During both World Wars, garlic was used as an antiseptic in field hospitals by Russian and British forces when pharmaceutical antibiotics were unavailable. The Russians called it Russian penicillin. Your grandmother just called it garlic. A 50-cent head of garlic from the grocery store still contains the same compound that killed bacteria in Pasteur's laboratory. But no one can patent it, and that is why no one prescribes it. Number 20, an oatmeal bath for skin irritation. When poison ivy, chickenpox, or eczema made a child's skin raw and screaming, your great-grandmother filled the tub with warm water and stirred in a cup of finely ground oatmeal. The child soaked, the itching stopped, the redness calmed. Colloidal oatmeal contains compounds called avenanthramides that have direct anti-inflammatory and antihistamine properties. A study published in the Journal of Drugs and Dermatology found that colloidal oatmeal significantly reduces itching, dryness, and roughness of the skin. The FDA approved colloidal oatmeal as a skin protectant in 2003. Your grandmother had been using it for decades before the FDA decided to notice. The commercial version now costs $12 a box. She ground hers from the same oats she fed the horses. Number 19. Saltwater gargle for sore throat. This is the simplest remedy on the list, and possibly the most effective for its purpose. 1 teaspoon of salt dissolved in 8 ounces of warm water. Gargle for 30 seconds, then spit. Your great-grandmother did this every time a sore throat appeared in the house. She did not wait for the doctor. She did not buy a spray. She reached for the salt box. A study published in the American Journal of Preventive Medicine found that people who gargled with salt water 3 times daily during cold season had a 40% reduction in upper respiratory infections compared to a control group. Salt water reduces swelling through osmotic action, draws fluid away from inflamed tissue, and creates an environment hostile to bacteria. There is no patent on salt water. There is no profit in salt water. There is no pharmaceutical sales representative who has ever recommended salt water. It works anyway. Number 18. Ginger root for nausea. Second pattern break. When morning sickness, stomach flu, or the aftermath of a bad meal left someone gray-faced and heaving, your great-grandmother grated fresh ginger root into boiling water, strained it, added a little honey, and handed over a cup. The nausea eased. The stomach settled. The color came back. A meta-analysis published in the journal Nutrition reviewed 12 randomized controlled trials and concluded that ginger is a safe and effective treatment for nausea and vomiting, including nausea associated with pregnancy, chemotherapy, and postoperative recovery. The active compounds, gingerols and shogols, work on serotonin receptors in the gut, the same receptors targeted by prescription anti-nausea medications that cost hundreds of dollars. Your grandmother's version cost the price of a ginger root from the garden. Number 17. Comfrey poultice for sprains and joint pain. For centuries, American farm families applied mashed comfrey leaves directly to sprained ankles, bruised joints, and aching backs. They called the plant knit bone because they believed it helped broken bones heal faster. The American Medical Association dismissed this as superstitious nonsense. A clinical trial published in Phytomedicine involving 164 patients found that topical comfrey extract reduced ankle sprain pain by 95% within a week, outperforming the placebo dramatically. In Germany, comfrey cream is an approved pharmaceutical product, prescribed by physicians and covered by health insurance. In the United States, the FDA issued warnings about comfrey in 2001, based on concerns about pyrrolizidine alkaloids found primarily in the root when taken internally. External application of the leaf, how your grandmother used it, was not the subject of those warnings. She crushed the leaves, applied them as a poultice, and wrapped the joint. The swelling went down. The bruise faded. She did not need the German study. She had the plant growing by the barn. Number 16. Apple cider vinegar for digestion. Your great-grandmother kept a jug of raw apple cider vinegar in the pantry, and she took a tablespoon diluted in water before heavy meals. She said it settled her stomach, kept her regular, and that her mother had done the same. A pilot study published in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that vinegar consumption before a meal significantly reduced blood glucose levels after a meal in people with insulin resistance. The acetic acid in vinegar appears to slow gastric emptying and improve insulin sensitivity. Your grandmother also used it to clean the kitchen, rinse her hair, and preserve vegetables. The vinegar her mother made was raw and unpasteurized, full of the bacterial culture known as the mother, the same probiotic-rich substance that modern health food stores now sell for $15 a bottle. She made hers from apple scraps that would otherwise have gone to the pigs. Nothing was wasted. Everything served double duty. Number 15. Chicken soup for illness. Third pattern break. Your great-grandmother's response to virtually any illness began with a pot of chicken soup. She boiled the whole bird, bones and all, for hours. She added onion, garlic, celery, carrots, and whatever herbs she had on hand. She said it healed. A landmark study published in the journal Chest by Dr. Stephen Rennard at the University of Nebraska Medical Center demonstrated that chicken soup inhibits the migration of neutrophils, the white blood cells that cause the inflammatory symptoms of upper respiratory infections. The soup reduces congestion, soothes inflamed tissue, provides hydration, and delivers easily absorbed nutrients to a body under stress. The bone broth itself contains glycine, proline, and collagen, amino acids that support gut lining integrity and immune function. Your grandmother could not have named those amino acids. She could name every joint of the chicken, and she knew exactly how long to let it simmer. The soup she made was medicine. It was also dinner. No pharmaceutical product in history has ever managed to be both. When a child touched the stove or a cook splashed grease on her arm, your great-grandmother broke a leaf from the aloe plant on the windowsill and spread the clear gel directly on the burn. The pain eased almost immediately, and the blister that would have formed often did not. A study published in the journal Burns showed that aloe vera gel accelerated healing of second-degree burns more effectively than silver sulfadiazine, the standard medical treatment. Aloe contains over 75 active compounds, including vitamins, enzymes, minerals, and amino acids. It reduces inflammation by directly inhibiting the cyclooxygenase pathway, the same mechanism targeted by ibuprofen. Your grandmother grew her medicine on the kitchen windowsill. A single plant produces enough gel for years of minor burn treatment. It costs nothing, reproduces on its own, and requires almost no care, which is precisely why no one in the medical establishment has ever told you to grow one. Number 13. Cod liver oil for winter health. From November through March, your great-grandmother lined the children up each morning and gave them a spoonful of cod liver oil. The children gagged. The oil tasted exactly as bad as you would expect. But the colds came less often, the bones grew strong, and the seasonal malaise that plagued other families passed hers by. Cod liver oil is among the richest natural sources of both vitamin D and vitamin A, the two nutrients most commonly deficient during winter months in northern latitudes. A review published in the British Medical Journal confirmed that vitamin D supplementation reduces the risk of acute respiratory infection, with the strongest protective effect in those who were most deficient. Your grandmother did not know about vitamin D. She knew that the children who took their cod liver oil got sick less than the children who did not. That was enough evidence for her, and the randomized controlled trials have now confirmed she was right. Number 12. Chamomile tea for sleep and stomach pain. Your great-grandmother dried chamomile flowers from her garden, stored them in paper bags, and brewed a cup for any child who could not sleep or any adult with a nervous stomach. The tea was mild, slightly sweet, and smelled like apples and hay. This is a simple, home remedy your grandmother probably used for sleep and comfort. A randomized controlled trial published in the Journal of Clinical Psychopharmacology found that chamomile extracts significantly reduced symptoms of generalized anxiety disorder compared to placebo. A separate study found that postpartum women who drank chamomile tea for 2 weeks reported significantly better sleep quality than the control group. The active compound, apigenin, binds to benzodiazepine receptors in the brain, the same receptors targeted by prescription anxiety medications like Valium. Your grandmother's garden-dried chamomile tea acted on the same neurological pathway as a controlled substance. The difference is that the tea has no risk of dependence, no withdrawal syndrome, and no side effects. It also costs nothing when you grow it yourself. Number 11. A baking soda paste for bee stings and insect bites. Fourth pattern break. When a wasp or bee found its target, your great-grandmother mixed baking soda with a few drops of water into a thick paste and applied it directly to the sting. The pain dulled within minutes. The swelling reduced. The child stopped crying. Bee venom is acidic. Baking soda is alkaline. The neutralization reaction reduces the chemical irritation at the site. This is not folk wisdom. This is basic chemistry that any first-year student could explain. Your grandmother did not have a chemistry degree. She had a box of Arm & Hammer and 4 grandchildren who played barefoot in clover fields full of bees. The remedy costs less than a penny per application. It has no expiration date. It requires no prescription. No emergency room visit has ever been more efficiently avoided than by a grandmother with a box of baking soda and a calm voice. Your great-grandmother grew peppermint behind the house where it spread like it owned the place. When a headache struck, she crushed the leaves, rubbed the oil between her fingers, and massaged it into the temples and the back of the neck. The headache loosened its grip within minutes. 2 clinical studies published in the journal Cephalalgia found that topical application of peppermint oil to the forehead and temples was as effective as a standard dose of acetaminophen for the treatment of tension headaches. The active compound, menthol, activates cold-sensitive receptors in the skin that interrupt pain signaling. It also relaxes the muscles of the scalp and improves blood flow to the area. Your grandmother did not buy peppermint oil in a small brown bottle from a health food store at $14 per ounce. She walked out the back door and picked it. The plant is essentially indestructible and grows in every climate zone in the country. Number 9. Turmeric for inflammation. Your great-grandmother may not have used that word, but the principle was the same. She added turmeric to soups, stews, and warm milk. She made a paste of turmeric and honey for sore joints. Curcumin, the active compound in turmeric, has been the subject of over 12,000 peer-reviewed published studies. A meta-analysis in the Journal of Medicinal Food reviewed 8 randomized controlled trials and found that curcumin supplementation significantly reduced markers of systemic inflammation, including C-reactive protein. It has demonstrated efficacy comparable to ibuprofen for joint pain in multiple trials. Turmeric has been used in traditional medicine for over 4,000 years. The knowledge that it reduces swelling and eases pain was not discovered in a laboratory. It was discovered in kitchens, passed from mother to daughter across hundreds of generations, and then quietly confirmed by the same scientific establishment that spent a century dismissing it. Number 8. A hot toddy for cold symptoms. Fifth pattern break. When a cold settled in hard and the patient was shivering under quilts, your great-grandmother heated water or weak tea, added honey, lemon juice, and a small measure of whiskey. She handed it over and stood watch until the cup was empty. The combination is not random. The honey coats and soothes the throat while providing antimicrobial action. The lemon delivers vitamin C and citric acid, which thin mucus. The warm liquid opens nasal passages through steam inhalation. The small amount of alcohol dilates blood vessels, increasing circulation and creating a sensation of warmth that helps the patient rest. No single pharmaceutical cold remedy addresses all 4 symptom pathways simultaneously. Your grandmother's recipe did. She did not call it a multi-symptom formulation. She called it a hot toddy, and she told you to drink it and go to bed. Number 7. Plantain leaf for stings, splinters, and wounds. Not the banana. The broadleaf weed that grows in every lawn and sidewalk crack in America. Your great-grandmother chewed a plantain leaf into a wet poultice and pressed it directly onto a bee sting, a splinter, or a small wound. She called it a drawing salve because it drew the poison or the foreign object toward the surface. Plantain contains allantoin, which stimulates cell growth and tissue repair, and aucubin, which has documented antimicrobial properties. A study in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology confirmed the traditional wound-healing properties of Plantago major. The plant is so common that most Americans mow over it every week without knowing they are destroying a first aid kit. Your grandmother knew it by sight, by touch, and by the slightly bitter taste when she chewed it. She did not buy wound care products. She walked across the yard. Number 6. Castor oil packs for abdominal pain. Your great-grandmother soaked a piece of flannel in warm castor oil, placed it over the abdomen, covered it with a hot water bottle, and told you to lie still. She used this for menstrual cramps, constipation, and general abdominal discomfort. The treatment felt strange and smelled worse, but the pain eased and the muscles relaxed, providing relief. Research published in the journal Complementary Therapies in Clinical Practice found that castor oil packs applied to the abdomen significantly reduced symptoms of constipation in elderly patients. A separate study found measurable increases in lymphocyte production after topical castor oil application, suggesting an immune-modulating effect. Ricinoleic acid, the primary fatty acid in castor oil, has documented anti-inflammatory and analgesic properties. Your grandmother did not know any of this. She knew the flannel, the oil, and the hot water bottle. She knew how long to leave it on. She knew what it fixed. That was all the pharmacology she needed. Number 5. Fire cider for immune support. Every fall, your great-grandmother filled a great-grandmother mason jar with raw apple cider vinegar and packed it with horseradish root, garlic, onion, ginger, hot peppers, and whatever medicinal herbs she had dried that summer. She sealed it, stored it in the pantry for a month, strained it, and took a shot every morning through winter. She called it fire cider. In 2019, a trademark dispute over the name became national news when a company attempted to trademark a recipe that herbalists had been sharing freely for generations. The herbal community fought back and won, preserving the recipe as common heritage. Every ingredient in the jar is individually documented as antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, or immune-stimulating. Together, in an apple cider vinegar base that provides its own probiotic benefits, the combination is a broad-spectrum tonic that your grandmother made for pennies, and that would cost $30 in a boutique health food store. She did not need a trademark. She needed a mason jar and a month of patience. Number 4. A warm salt compress for ear infections. When a child woke crying with an earache, Your great-grandmother heated coarse salt in a dry skillet, poured it into a clean sock, tied the end, and held it against the affected ear. The warmth eased the pain. The child stopped crying and slept. Ear infections are the leading reason for pediatric antibiotic prescriptions in the United States, and the overuse of antibiotics for ear infections is a major contributor to antibiotic resistance. The American Academy of Pediatrics now recommends watchful waiting for 48 to 72 hours before prescribing antibiotics for uncomplicated ear infections in children over 2, because the majority resolve on their own. Your grandmother's warm salt sock was not treating the infection. It was managing the pain while the body's immune system handled the rest. This is exactly what current medical guidelines now recommend. She arrived at the same conclusion as the American Academy of Pediatrics 60 years before they published it. She used a sock and a skillet. They used a clinical trial. Number 3. Bone broth for gut health and recovery. Your great-grandmother never threw away a bone. Every carcass went into a heavy pot with water and simmered for hours, sometimes days on the back of the wood stove. The broth she produced was thick, golden, and gelatinous when cooled. She gave it to anyone recovering from illness, to children who were not thriving, and to the elderly whose appetites had faded. Modern research has confirmed that prolonged simmering of bones extracts collagen, glycine, proline, glutamine, and a range of minerals in bioavailable form. Glutamine plays a critical role in maintaining intestinal barrier integrity. Glycine has been shown to improve sleep quality and reduce systemic inflammation. Your grandmother's perpetual stockpot on the back of the stove was a slow-release nutritional pharmacy running on kitchen scraps and patience. No product in any pharmacy has ever replicated what she pulled out of that pot. Number 2, clove oil for toothache. When a tooth throbbed in the middle of the night and there was no dentist for 30 miles, your great-grandmother dipped a small piece of cotton in oil of clove and pressed it directly against the offending tooth. The pain dropped from blinding to bearable within 2 minutes. Eugenol, the primary active compound in clove oil, is a documented local anesthetic and antimicrobial agent. It is still a component of modern dental cements and temporary fillings. A study published in the Journal of Dentistry confirmed that clove oil is as effective as benzocaine, the standard topical dental anesthetic for pain relief applied to the gums. The bottle of clove oil in your grandmother's medicine cabinet cost a few cents. She did not eliminate the need for the dentist. She eliminated the suffering between midnight and morning. And for a family 30 miles from town, that was everything. Number 1, the kitchen garden pharmacy. This is not a single remedy. It is the system that held all the others together. Your great-grandmother maintained a garden that was equal parts food and medicine. Chamomile grew along the border. Peppermint ran wild by the back fence. Elderberry bushes lined the property edge. Garlic occupied an entire row. Comfrey grew near the barn where the injuries happened most. Aloe sat on the windowsill. Plantain was left to grow wherever it appeared in the yard, because she knew it was more valuable than the grass. She did not separate food from medicine because for most of human history, that separation did not exist. The division between food and pharmaceutical medicine was manufactured in the early 20th century by industries that could not profit from a garden. The Flexner Report of 1910 closed the medical schools that taught plant-based healing. The pharmaceutical industry spent the next century convincing Americans that health came from a bottle with a child-proof cap and a copay. Your grandmother knew better. She knew that a household with a garden full of medicinal plants, a pantry full of honey, garlic, ginger, vinegar, and bone broth, and the knowledge to use them was a household that rarely needed a doctor for the ordinary illnesses that make up 90% of human sickness. She was not practicing alternative medicine. She was practicing the only medicine that existed before someone decided to sell you an alternative to it. Here is your challenge. Pick one, just one. Grow a pot of chamomile on your windowsill. Buy a bottle of raw honey from a local beekeeper. Plant garlic this fall. Make a bone broth this weekend from a chicken carcass you would have thrown away. Tell me in the comments which one you are starting with. Tell me what your grandmother used, because I promise you, somebody in your family tree knew every remedy on this list. That knowledge did not die. It just got quiet when the money got loud. It is time to listen to your grandmother again.